Hey, this is the Hard Truth of Tony Shaffer, powered by 6 Hour, never settled. I had a choice of what I carried in combat. I always carried the best. The best is 6 Hour, never settled. You should carry 6 Hour. We're on the America Out Loud Talk Radio Network, also available on the America Out Loud Podcast Network. Check us out, Project Sentinel, projectsentinel.net and .com, and the London Center for Policy Research, londoncenter.org, and every known social media site in the universe, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, etc., etc., etc. We're joined by my friend, and I do mean friend, Buck Sexton today. Buck is the co-host of the Clay Travis Buck Sexton Show. I listen to it as I'm taking doing errands in my hometown here in Edenton, and he's also the host of something called the Buck Sexton Show. I wonder what that's about. Anyway, Buck Sexton is here with us. Hey, Buck. Buck was previously served as CIA officer at the Counterterrorism Center and Office of Iraq Analysis. He completed tours of duty as intelligence officer in Iraq and Afghanistan, as did I in Afghanistan, not Iraq, and led senior officials, briefing officials to include briefing George W. Bush, Dick Cheney, and et cetera, regarding that. Worked also with the NYPD Counterterrorism Division, Intelligence Division, and which I still work with them. I'm actually on the NYPD's Extended Counterterrorism Task Force, representing Stafford County, Virginia, Dave Decatur, and as his Homeland Security advisor. So anyway, Buck, I always appreciate the fact that you and I have had parallel backgrounds, and welcome to The Hard Truth.
Thank you, sir. We've been friends now for many years. We've been out shooting together.
Yeah.
You'll be proud to know. I'm honored to even be on, first of all, your show, but also with some of your phenomenal sponsors. I have here, my everyday carry is my 365, my SIG 365, which is right next to me as I'm doing the show in the safe, next to my Staccato. So those are great. Those are my 1 and 2 right there.
You're the third guy to talk about the 365 being their daily carry, and I carry both. I've got, just for the audience to see, I actually carry the 220. I have the Customs 220 45. I like 45. I started with a 45. Yeah, I didn't get to shoot as many people with a 45 as I would have liked to. Just saying, if I shot people, I'm not saying I shot people, but if I did, I would have preferred to use the 45 over the 9. But I carry both. And the 365 is very popular with me. So, and we had a great time that one time down in Arlington. Yeah. Did you know, Buck, that they sold that range to the county, and that's no longer a private facility where we shot that one time with the big guns and everything? It's gone.
Oh, that was a great range. We had a great range day.
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't want to say the name because I don't want to get in trouble. Anyway, it was a great place. But 6 Hour is our sponsor. You're close enough that next time we're up there, we should probably show up there. The 6 Hour Experience Center, I don't know if you've been there, but it is to die for, so to speak. Not that I'm saying people die there. I'm not. But I'm saying that it's a great place to go, and it's got great training. So I think at some point we should look at going up together and doing some stuff up there.
Absolutely.
So I always appreciate Clay Travis and you going through and doing a lot of things regarding common sense. And the last time we spoke you interviewed me for your show, we talked about the Green New Deal, green energy, and all that. And I'd like to kind of focus on that today, but I'd like to start off with the issues regarding China, because so much of what's going on right now from Janet Yellen. Did you see Janet Yellen over there? She was bouncing like a little leprchaun when she was trying to do the genuflecting. Did you see that video? You need to see it. Buck.
I'll find it. I'll have my team pull it up.
Remember as a kid, they used to have that cereal of, what was it, with the leprechaun on it?
Lucky Charms,
Frosted Lucky Charms.
Yeah,
she was bouncing like the Lucky Charms little guy, kind of bouncing.
Well, there was the Gummy Bears cartoon in my youth, which was people bouncing around, bouncing here and there and everywhere. They are the Gummy Bears. So I remember that.
Well, she looks more like a gummy bear than a leprechaun. Just saying, if you're going to compare.
That's kind of what I was thinking. You know what I mean? They got the Gummy Bears have a bit of padding.
That would be an accurate representation. So you were correct, sir. You've corrected me. And she looked more like a gummy bear bouncing when she was genuflecting to the Chinese leadership.
But I didn't see it. I do know that the inflation rate that we're always talking about is really not even related to the core inflation that people feel, or I should say, it doesn't represent the core inflation that people feel every day.
Right.
And I have this theory. I'll tell you, I've told this to people that, former hedge fund guys who are now retired, or, guys who have been on Wall Street a long time. I'm like, it feels to me like the whole system now is just because a real recession. Now, I know we get into the whole 2 quarters of negative growth under Biden and was it really a recession? Oh, it wasn't a recession. But there is such a thing, right? No one's walking around in 2008 when the market was falling off a cliff and saying, well, this isn't a recession, right? So, so what they realize is that if you can avoid the political accountability of that moment of recognition by just extending out the pain, it's like the economic equivalent of pulling off the Band-Aid so slowly, right?
Yeah.
Do you even know what's going on if it's that slow? And that is kind of inflation and the economic pressures we're under. Their whole game is to just make sure that nobody realizes. I mean, the inflation that they caused by spending the $6 trillion and then $2 trillion under Biden. That's why this is all happening, right? It was their stupid policies that led to this in the first place.
Well, yeah, and what I find most disheartening is that the actual legislation, public law, I guess, what is it here? I'm actually trying to look at this right now. Public law 117, I guess, for the year 117-169, the Inflation Reduction Act. Man, what a badly named bill, which is actually just a Tootsie Roll, the hard outer crust with the soft nugget, chocolate center being green energy. It has nothing to do about inflation. It's about trying to push our economy into this government fixated, focused policy regarding energy. And Buck, you and I talk a lot about
Can I just throw something in there?
Sure,
I don't want to divert your question. I just think this is I'm kind of reaching max cynicism these days about politics and political discourse.
Yeah.
Because everyone says, for example, we all make fun of, rightly so, right? The Inflation Reduction Act. And we're like, oh, it's so stupid. It doesn't even reduce inflation. It doesn't even deal with inflation. What do you say? But the other side sits there and they go, I'm sorry, what's the name of that bill again? Oh, the Inflation Reduction Act. Inflation Reduction. It's just the fire hose of falsehood. It's just the repetition of the propaganda.
Right.
You know what I mean? That it's that simplistic. It's that simple-minded. The fact that it doesn't do what they say, it doesn't matter, because for us to talk about it, unless we're going to call it, HR 2729 or something, what do we call it? The name of the bill.
Right.
What is the bill's name?
Oh, you're right.
You know what I mean? It's like we look at this and see it as it's grotesquely dishonest, but they look at it and they say, that's right, grotesquely dishonest. That's our brand.
And that's the thing. It's like we actually fall for their misuse of the English language constantly. And I talk about this all the time. And, one of our fellow personalities, Chris Plant, talks about it as well. Chris is on top of this and always talks about it.
Oh, Chris is a sharp guy. I know Chris. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but this is my point. Even in the context of them lying, which they do, what element of the Constitution or the amendments give the government any jurisdiction to tell me what kind of car I should drive, what kind of light bulb I should buy, or what right they have to tell me that I should have trees or not have trees in my yard? Is there anything in the Constitution that says that?
Well, Tony, I think the best answer to your question is actually a question.
Yeah.
Which is, what makes you think they care about what's in the Constitution?
Excellent. Excellent. You're right.
That's where you see we keep thinking we're like running around the field calling out to the refs, in this case the ref being rule of law, Constitution,
right,
plain meaning of the English language, and they're just kicking people from behind in the shins and hitting them with sticks. They don't give a crap. So we always are in this position of running around saying, oh, but look what they did. And they're just saying, yeah, what does the scoreboard say? Right.
Yeah.
And they have a will to power. It's very straightforward. So yeah, I mean, your point, yeah, of course it's not in the Constitution. But the moment the Constitution, so here, this is, do you ever read any sci-fi? Do you like sci-fi?
I love sci-fi. No, I'm a big Star Trek guy. Babylon 5, Jerry Doyle and I were close friends from Babylon 5.
Dune, I would argue, it's not just really good sci-fi. I mean, I would argue it's just brilliant fiction, for what it is. It's like a modern fiction classic. I thought the movie was pretty good. I have not read the novel Children of Dune, but I am familiar with this quote. It's a Frank Herbert quote, where he says, when you are stronger than me, I demand freedom because it is according to your principles. When you are weaker than me, I demand obedience because it is according to my principles. That's the Democrat mantra with everything. When they can make you because they have the power, they do it. They don't care. And when they can use our principles, our Constitution, our sense of fair play against us, they do. And that's true with the climate change stuff. It's true with everything, right? It's
I want to break that down because I think the best thing we can do is actually get some context of how badly they're lying to us, because they wrap this, Buck, in this idea that we're just trying to help you. Don't you understand? It's like you've seen the movie Office Space, right? The two Bobs are in there with the
I've
guy.
seen it. I could recite it, but keep going.
Yeah, it's like, I'm a people person. Don't you understand?
Oh yeah, that's no, that's not Milton Wadhams. That's the other guy. That's the guy that takes the pet rock.
Yeah, you take the requirements from the software engineers to the customers. Well,
that's Milton Wadhams.
No, not really. That's my secretary does that.
Oh yeah, no, this is this guy.
What do you do here exactly? Well, I've got people skills. Don't you understand? It's the same thing. It's like, yeah, it's like they don't care. They're going to be as mean as they can be.
But the climate change, it's reached the point now where everybody, the science is completely irrelevant.
Yeah. Well,
right. I mean, but it really is. The people that are talking about the science have no idea. They couldn't tell you the temperature at which water boils. I mean, they couldn't begin to explain even, they don't know how to spell photosynthesis. Like the whole thing is a joke, but they know what the mass delusion is. They know what the talking points are.
Right.
And it's just meant to give people a political allegiance and a sense of purpose, right? It gives you a sense of, I'm the good person who does the good things to save the planet. I mean, one of the funniest things I have like friends who are on the right who have been making fun of me that I am militant about not recycling. Like I will not recycle. I mean, plastic in particular. I'm a little more, open to the idea about maybe paper, but even that's actually not good for the environment. But I mean, plastic is a total joke. And, in New York, you have this thing where you're supposed to be, washing out, all of your different.
They just burn it. They put it in a big thing and they burn it.
They either burn it or they
put it on train cars coming south.
They send it to a third world country where they reuse it and then it gets dumped in the ocean. So the whole thing is preposterous. But the point is not that it saves the planet. The point is that it is like masking during COVID. It is an obedience ritual to a belief system. It's just about belief, right? I mean, you and I know this, but that's why it's almost when we start to look at the graphs, we look at, what is the real data? Like you do this, right? Because
I do. I'm going to say
go ahead. I was going to say, we'll look at the graphs, but they just.
But I think this is the thing. So I've got a degree in it, as we've talked about. It's like my frustration is being a credentialed guy. As a guy who actually studied this, like everything you're saying is wrong. It's like, no, I've got a degree. Well, it doesn't count because you're a conservative. It's like, F y'all, and that's to your point. It's like, I'm just tired of them trying to discount my informed professional opinion because it goes against their religious doctrine. And again, that is what it is. That's why they defend it so vigorously, Buck, is because that has replaced religion in their world. The idea is that we must save the planet. We are all children of the planet. And the moment you start questioning their doctrine, or old Boltnick, old John Kerry, John Kerry, well, I'm too important to have to fly commercial. I've got to fly on my phony baloney excursions on my private jet, promoting, producing all these tons of carbon. So carbon is not the enemy. And this is one of my points. So the little quick trick question, two trick questions for you. First off, how many windmills does it take to produce a Prius?
I don't know, a lot.
The answer is zero because they can't because fossil fuels.
Right? Don't you need you need for the batteries in these things now? You need, what is it? Is it cobalt that they're mining?
Oh yeah.
In Africa in these open pits.
Buck,
and actually Prigozhin's boys from the Wagner group is just pillaging these African resources. The whole thing, right? I mean, you're
right. So, but no, you're right. So cobalt, nickel, carbon, plastic. A lot of plastic. Plastics come from petroleum. It's all carbon based. So, but get this. I didn't even know this because I just was doing research for our conversation. Did you know that in each Toyota Prius, there's 1 kilogram of neodymium, NEODYMIUM, and 22 pounds of lanthanum, LANTHANUM. These things are nasty chemicals that you have to bore way down into the earth to get them. And once you get them, you have to refine them using all sorts of nasty chemicals. Does that sound like someone is worried about the environment if they're destroying the environment to create these god-awful EVs?
Again, this is the point. It's not, no matter what we can show about the true environmental impact of these different policies, never changes, because the people who do this aren't ultimately in it for the environmental benefit.
But the people, but this is the thing. So, but the people who actually follow them are, and this is where it frustrates me, because we were talking earlier today with John Catsimatidis from your neck of the woods, Cats. And
I know Cats. John Jr. or John Sr.?
Senior.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So John, we were just talking to John, and I'm on their radio show all the time on WABC. So my point is that Katz knows from experience that the left is going to lie about everything. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, the progressive left. But one of the things you've got people, and one of our team, Tanya, left the left, so to speak, like many do. You've met Tanya at some point in the past, and she used to work for me at the center, and she's still part of our radio team. But my point being is that she recognized one day she was being lied to, and that's the thing. So much of what I think we can do is actually get people who are kind of gettable. It's like, all that nice stuff they say about saving the environment, it's all a lie, and this is why. So let me ask you, how many trees are there on planet Earth?
How many trees are there on planet Earth?
So let me give you a hint. Maybe this will help you give a perspective. On my 3 acres, there's about 1,000 trees. Does that help you? You want to take a guess?
There are a trillion trees on planet Earth.
Close. Wow, you're close. 3 trillion. You were off by.
Well, at least I'm in the tees with the trillions.
You were in the zone. So, but that's my point. And Audubon Society estimates that each tree, conservatively, each tree processes 48 pounds of carbon. So if you multiply 48 pounds times 3 trillion, it wipes out any issues regarding carbon. It's like we don't have a carbon problem. As a matter of fact, we need more trees so we can actually manufacture more.
Well, this is also, I think, where it's an important part of the argument that you don't really hear enough, and it's that whenever it comes to an issue of actual, because here's what the libs will say. You know how this game goes, but just for the benefit of the audience to take us
please
together, they'll say it's like, oh, conservatives don't care about clean air and clean water, so we have to change CO2 emissions. You go, well, hold on a second. Notice the change there.
That's right. The old bait and switch.
CO2 is what we breathe out, what plants breathe in. This is a natural thing that's out there. This is not a pollutant.
Right.
And the moment, and I bring this up because one, it's their argument is dishonest. But if you step back for a second, what you also see is the moment it comes to actual clean water issues, the moment it comes to conservation, whether it's of animals or wetlands or whatever, conservatives, if it's a reasonable position that's really about that, are overwhelmingly supportive of these things.
Right.
Conservatives are actually about conservation. Notice it's not conservatives like, oh, let's just let's get rid of Yellowstone National Park and let's tear down all that. Right. No, that's not true. When it comes to issues of actually protecting different species that are, whether it's bald eagles, which are now like pigeons, they're everywhere. But there was a time when people were really worried about them. You live in Virginia, there are bald eagles all over Virginia now.
Oh, I live in North Carolina now, but just
same idea. Right?
I get on my tree. I see them on my tree all the time.
Yeah, but that's conservatives go whenever it's actually about conservation and whenever it's actually about clean air and clean water, we're on board. It's just when they use those things as a means of saying, within reason, of course, right? But when they use those things as a means of saying, oh, no, you don't care about dirty water. It's like, I drink the water too. Of course I care about dirty water.
Of course.
But this is why the argument never lines up, because they say you don't care about dirty water. We need to stop CO2 emissions. You need to ride a bicycle. What? Like, how does that happen? Right. It just, it's all bait and switch. It's a
non-sequitur. Non-sequitur. Yeah. And that's what I find frustrating, because to your point, Buck, I was a Reagan guy in college, believe it or not. And when I took my
guy's like 32 years old. He says he's a Reagan guy. How's it even possible? Look at this.
Yeah, right. Look, at Wright State University,
you don't age. Let's be honest, Tony. You don't age. I don't even. You could tell me. You could be an old 40, or you could be a young, I don't even know. But you don't.
I'm turning 61 in 2 months. So anyway,
damn. I want to look like Tony at 61, dude. You are holding together well.
Cigars and push-ups and pull-ups. That's the key.
There we go.
Just saying. Anyway, back to Reagan. So by the way, I don't know if you know, I actually voted for Reagan when I turned 18. I turned 18 in October of 80. And so I voted for Reagan that next month. I was very proud of that fact that I actually figured it out. I figured out, Buck, by the way, little pro tip. When you have a president going to his teenage daughter for nuclear weapons advice, that's probably not the guy you want to elect to office, just saying, And so when Jimmy Carter said he'd gone to Amy, well, I went to Amy for advice on what to do about the Russians' nuclear weapons. I didn't figure that was a good move because I was a teenager. It's like, I would not be asking me about nuclear weapons, just saying. So it was probably a good move, I think. So, I mean, me going to Reagan, voting for Reagan, not Carter going to Amy.
Yeah,
so
my first vote was George W. Bush. So I, take that as you will.
I feel your pain. Anyway, so back to our topic. So the issue regarding the truth is something that needs to be examined. So I actually watched a film a while back, and I reference this on the show often. 1957, an Army film called How to Recognize Propaganda. And this is the tagline: the best defense against enemy propaganda is the truth, which is true. It's a true statement. And so in this film, they talk about and conclude after you watch it. It's about a 20-minute film. It's it's one of those typical military training films. Army did it. And so this is a statement I find to be actually accurate. Quote, for a communist, a thing is true only if it advances the communist cause, unquote.
100%.
So that's what we're faced with. We're faced with a communist movement on the left, which is out to destroy the very fabric and common sense, and I would say normalcy, because you guys talk about normalcy on your radio show. You could talk about the other day about how they're out to destroy normal, the left.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you look at totalitarian movements, for example, totalitarian movements are always built on a foundation of lies, because the very premise that the state can do all the things, should know all the things, and should be involved in all the things that a truly totalitarian society is premised upon is always a falsehood. Like this is always insane. It's effectively the merger of a deity with a government apparatus,
right?
Which is, and that's why the ultimate manifestation of this is North Korea, where you've really tried to play this model out all the way. He's a god. It's the government. It's everything.
Yeah.
Well, this is the only way this is possible. Is a foundation of a mountain of lies. And this is why you see in all communist movements, it's constantly about lies, which is why the most famous line, the most important line of Russian dissident Solzhenitsyn is live not by lies. Don't be a part of it. Don't go along with it. Stand up for what you know to be true, even in minor things, even in your day-to-day. Because what allows them to get away with things, and we saw this during COVID in this country. We've seen this start to become a reality more and more for us, is when people go, I know it's a lie, but I'll do it. I know that's a he, but I'll say it's a she. I know that this, is up, but I'll say it's down. And that's the beginning of the worst kinds of tyranny. And that's why when you understand again that truth is entirely situational. We don't hear about moral relativism on the right so much anymore. I feel like that's kind of, fallen away, but it's a similar concept, which is just everything moves based upon the needs of the moment, which, as is how Stalin, it's how Lenin operated, it's how Stalin operated, it's how Mao operated. I mean, you go down the list with all these guys, we have these core principles, and then there's a moment of challenge them. They go, that's not a principle. Just kill that guy. Just get rid of that group, toss them off the land, whatever it may be, because ultimately it's just about power.
And Jake Sullivan illustrated that as at the time we're talking. Jake Sullivan had actually gone to a press conference where he was rightfully asked the question, is the United States working with Ukraine to suppress certain people's voices who were speaking out against U.S. policy? And of course, Jake Sullivan said, we never work to suppress anything regarding free speech. Like I'll say this, Jake was very smooth in the lie, but it was a lie. There's no doubt in my military mind that Jake Sullivan lied, Buck, and that they are engaged every step of the way trying to do the old Soviet two-step of trying to suppress any speech they just disagree with at this point.
Oh, absolutely. the level of speech suppression that we've seen under the Biden administration is more extreme and more severe than anything we've seen really since Woodrow Wilson, whose attitude was, you oppose my foreign policy, go to prison, straight to jail, straight to jail. If you've ever seen that sketch that the guy does.
I was, and by the way, I mean, the guy that introduced segregation, I'm not slamming the left too much, but I am. He introduced segregation to many aspects of the American culture as a president.
Well, Woodrow Wilson, you're talking about? Oh, yeah. Woodrow Wilson was an absolute racist, and the Democrats, Woodrow Wilson was a racist. You look at what FDR thought about different groups. These people would not be welcome in the CNN green room these days. But we're supposed to forget about all that and just think that George Washington's the only bad guy from history.
No, I know. So, but one last thing before we go, we're running out of time. But do you know who actually ended segregation at the federal level? Who basically
Eisenhower?
Yes.
Come on, buddy. You're gonna roll at the Buckster with this?
Why don't we know? I mean, I appreciate the fact you knew that. It's just why don't we talk more about that? Because they're always talking about the Civil Rights Act of 1964. It's like 64 was simply LBJ recognizing, hey, the gig is up. We can't support segregation. We're going to pretend that we like black persons now, and we're going to support them.
Republicans fought the hard battles for equality early on, and it was the Democrat, Dixiecrats, Southern. And the segregationists were on the other side of this.
It drives me nuts.
And then all of a sudden, when the political winds shifted the Democrat Party, they always talk about the party shift or whatever. No, they're the ones who just decided, oh wait, we're going to find advantage in this now that the politics have changed. But when it was about principle, Republicans were the ones who were like, all human beings are actually going to be equal here. That's how we're going to do it.
And we've lost. And so this is what I mean. I appreciate the way that we've had this discussion, because ultimately that's the point that we both agree on. The left is completely out to destroy the very fabric of everything. Anything we talk about, anything good we did as conservatives is instantly either discredited or, oh, we did that. I meant to do that. So I think it's great that we're ending with Eisenhower and the Act of 57, because that is when. It's like, why don't you say this? Like, I never hear us talk about that. The Republicans not only freed the slaves, they end discrimination in 1957 by the hand of Eisenhower, and we don't talk about that. So, I mean, Buck, as always, my friend, I always love our conversations. Thank you for being here today on The Hard Truth. Where can people find you other than I obviously listen to you and Clay Travis.
Well, thank you.
You got your own thing. So what else?
Yeah, I'd love it for so many people to check out the on YouTube. I could use more YouTube folks for the Buck Sexton Show, which is just me talking to people like Tony. Recently, Tony was on. Right. But if you're talking about the radio, we're on 500 stations. So everywhere across the country, just find the Clay and Buck Show on radio. Check us out, or on podcast. And Tony, always a pleasure, man. Thanks for hanging.
Thank you. Thanks, Buck. And y'all stay tuned. We'll be back with part 2 of The Hard Truth very soon. Hey, this is The Hard Truth, Tony Shaffer, part 2, powered by 6 Hour, Never Settle. I had a choice of what I carried in combat. I always carried the best. The best is 6 Hour. You should carry a 6 Hour too. Never settle. We're on the America Out Loud Talk Radio Network, and also on the America Out Loud Podcast Radio Network. Check us out, Project Sentinel, projectsentinel.net and .com. The London Center for Policy Research, londoncenter.org, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we're back now with the team for part 2, the unstoppable Chris Cordani.
Sometimes.
That's right. The convivial Tanya Miller from Hawaii.
Convivial.
And the unperturbed Elizabeth Breckenkamp from Old Virginia.
Old Virginia, unperturbed. That's good.
I was actually watching Ted Turner get killed this morning when he was playing a Virginia colonel on some of the excerpts from Gettysburg, which is a great movie, by the way. Another movie I highly recommend. Yeah.
Oh, that is, yes, I have seen that one.
Any movie that Ted Turner gets shot in, it's a good movie. Just
I know one of the historians who was consulted with those movies, the Gettysburg movies. Pat Fauci, different. No relation, by the way.
Okay, that's very important.
He played Major General A.P. Hill in the movie, by the way.
Yeah. Did you know James Bond, James Lazenby played a role in it? I did not know, and I've met him. You know?
Wow.
Yeah, he played one of the Southern generals. It's like, I had no idea, and I stood right next to him wearing a kilt, and I didn't even know that. So.
Ron Maxwell.
He was wearing a kilt, or you were wearing a kilt?
I was wearing the kilt because it was the Spy Museum's last day. The old Spy Museum, which I was a member of before certain people got upset because I was a conservative through suspended me. The old location downtown in D.C. and George Lazenby was the one James Bond that they could, find who wanted to participate. I guess, he was off.
That's cool though. That's
Yeah.
super cool.
Yeah,
You also
so-
wore the kilt New Year's one year. I know.
I
remember
have-
you in the kilt.
I like kilts. To me, the answer, no, I'm serious. The answer to unisex uniforms is kilts, right? Who doesn't like a kilt,
Sure.
right?
Well, you're required to, I believe, go commando traditionally,
that is the requirement.
No one will ever know.
unless you're climbing a tree. Different story.
Oh my gosh.
That's right.
Oh,
Or if you're doing spin dancing, I guess you'd find out spin dancing too.
No cartwheels or somersaults either.
That's right.
Well,
That's
just
right.
really
We should do a show on what not to do in a kilt. That would be a good show.
Right. It has its pluses and it's got its downsides.
That's right. So, all right. Never settle for kilts. I mean, but settle for SIG. That's right. That's a good
There
advertisement.
we go.
We could do an advertisement for SIG wearing kilts. That's a good advertisement. You could figure out where to
You won't be
conceal
as
stuff in that.
vulnerable, right? If you're
right.
kind of vulnerable with the kilt, but you wouldn't be if you had
if you're going commando, I guess you could stick something else up there too. Just saying, there's
yeah, true.
ways of so
More room.
I'll talk to Tom about that. Hey, Tom, have you
There's some
considered a special kilt holster for your?
Oh, I'm sure
weapon?
there's accessories. I know for
That's
the
right.
ladies under the dresses and all that, we have Spanx or what have you with the.
Spanx.
Yep.
It would make sense, though. You could hide them in your bagpipes.
That's where you put the ammo, though.
That's right.
Anyway, we've got a full-on visual.
Women? Is that what they call women with big breasts in Scotland?
I think this is your new superhero action figure, Tony in a kilt with the ammo in the backpack.
That's right. I would do that. We could do that.
This
Maybe we could
visual
make an
wasn't
action
for nothing. We're doing something with it. I'm telling
This sounds like one of the bad guys, the villains, if you will, on the what was that, the Austin Powers trilogy. The guy with the bagpipes.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So, now that you bring it up, Chris, there's another great movie, the original Casino Royale, where they have all these bagpipers shooting at Peter Sellers, who plays James. There's like all these James Bonds. It's a comedy. It's very funny.
It's
where
it has to be Peter Sellers.
you all remember. I'm sure you've heard the song "The Look of Love." That's where that song comes from. "The Look of Love," Dusty Springfield, and it's Peter Sellers, David Niven. Who else is in that, Chris? You're a movie guy. Orson Welles.
I forgot most of them.
Oh, that sounds like a great movie.
I do tell people my favorite James Bond's Peter Sellers, but I do like.
People don't believe
he was. James Bond. Peter Sellers played James Bond in that. Jamie Bond.
Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
You learn something new every day on this show. Spread the word. Put it out on social media. Let us go viral. You don't know these things without listening to.
We should do that, Chris. We should do a thing on spy movies sometime with the gang on your show. Not that I'm telling you what to do with your show. I like
the idea. You're a genius because
for the listeners who weren't aware, Tony had a spy moment. Tony had his area of the spy moment in the spy museum.
My spy moment. That's right.
The original. The original.
Yeah. Well, it's still online. You can still catch out my.
Yeah.
You still catch my.
Cool.
Yeah.
I have an idea. What we could do is I could start a movie. I will meet you somewhere near the spy museum or in the spy museum, right?
Mm-hmm,
okay. We'll have Tanya push. Tanya will do the video. She'll be behind the camera. You just push me right in the middle of the spy museum. We can call the movie "The Spy Who Shoved Me."
There you go.
Oh.
It would be very short.
Bad jokes.
It would be very short.
It's like those.
I can do that.
It's like those shorts it used to be on Saturday Night Live, like fish heads, eat them up, yum.
Right at the steps,
Barnes and Barnes.
That's
so
right.
if Tanya shoves you, I'll be the nurse and I'll come running in to help save you. How's that? Is that cool? I'll try to save you.
That could be terrific.
She could be
a tourniquet or something like that.
That could be the sequel, the spy who snubbed me. So yes.
Bring a tourniquet or or what's that? One of those tracheotomy things.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. Spy v Spy. Isn't that a cartoon? That's been.
It is. Yeah, the black and white spies. That's right.
The Mad magazine. I used to love that. They tried to make a movie out of that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they should. That's a great idea.
They didn't. Oh, they should.
I thought they did.
No, I don't think they did. I think they should. So anyway, back to series. We could geese all day about movies and pop culture, which we will. We'll have to have Doomcock back and do that sometime. But let's get back to Buck's commentary regarding the left. So is it it clearly at this point, the facts matter not to the left. They could care less about what we say about Constitution, about accountability. This today, and I wanted to bring this up, and we're out of time with Buck, but let's talk about it. Chris Wray, basically confronted by Matt Gaetz on the fact that, Mr. Director of the FBI, it seems to me that Hunter Biden was shaking down the Chinese for money.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't want to comment on that. Really? It's like obvious, and your sense of non-curiosity is peculiar. Do y'all agree on? What do you think?
They're trying to hide these things. The idea is they know they're caught. They can't find a way out of it. But it was always the old mantra of the politician's mantra: deny, deny, deny. The people on your team will definitely believe you, not because they do, because they want to. Yeah. Politics has become baseball or some kind of sport. You root for your team, no matter what happens. If your favorite home run hitter throws a baseball at some kid and beans him in the head and laughs, he's still on your team. You got to go with them.
Yeah, like confirmation bias. People only believe what they want to believe. And when they find one little sound bite, regardless of who says it, it's like, oh, yeah, yep. So that just proves what I already believed. Like, no.
That's true.
You have to listen to all of the evidence, all of the information. Then you also have to remember to put it in context. I know we were talking about that before, putting things in context. It's like you have to dig a little bit deeper and do a little bit more investigative research really on your own, which I just always go back to when I was a journalist. It's like sometimes you have to dig deeper, instead of just looking at I made that mistake like within the first year. I was at Fort Rucker, Alabama, and I remember interviewing several people, and I thought I had the subject matter expert. Turned out I didn't, and I didn't realize, and I felt so stupid. Went back to the editor. Yeah, I'm an E4 at the time, and the editor's like, "No, that was the wrong person." It's like, oh my gosh, you have to dig deeper,
Yeah, if you want the proper context matters to the truth of a story, to the truth of not a story. You're not really trying to tell a story. And I think that's what we end up with. We end up with storytelling and narratives and very weak on the facts about a situation with a point of view, a vantage point that has examined everything that's available at that time. So you can only do what you can do at the time of taping or air or what have you. We're not all superhuman. The news is constantly cranking out. And so it is more difficult. However, there are particular facts that constantly have been glossed over for years and years on end. And we're just sticking with narratives when it makes no sense anymore. And that's what people are calling out.
That's the thing, Tanya, I want to bring up to your point. So what exactly was Hunter Biden selling worth millions of dollars? Just answer me that question. What was he selling?
Access.
Access. Bingo.
Influence.
Influence.
Yeah. Influence. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is something that's obvious. Like what exactly were they paying him on? And they won't talk about it. Well, he's just a nice guy. No, he's not a freaking nice guy. He's like, carouses with prostitutes.
Wait, he's a great artist though.
He's a great artist.
People pay $500,000 for Hunter Biden's art.
But to Tanya's point, asking that simple and obvious question is forbidden. People go nuts. What exactly was he selling? He was selling Joe Biden. Joe Biden was the commodity. That's what he was selling. And that's why they're working so hard.
And whether or not even, I don't know whether the question of whether daddy or 10% big guy Biden was there as the text was going out. But isn't that neither here nor there?
It's neither here nor there.
It's neither here nor there. No. It's an implied, you understand who the big guy is. All these receipts are talking otherwise.
They do this.
So
they do this every time.
They're muddying the water with the facts that are not helpful to their case.
And Buck was talking about that a little bit too. It's like they always divert you. Well, you all hate, you don't want clean water and clean air, therefore carbon. It's like carbon, this has nothing to do with clean air. It's a same thing, Tanya, we were talking earlier today on Able Danger. The fact that they look, I got to give it to the government. They were masterful. Oh, we got to find a picture of Muhammad Atta. What about the fact that we've acknowledged that we were tracking Al-Qaeda before 9/11? Oh, we don't want to talk about that. You need to prove that we had Muhammad Atta. What are you talking about?
Wow.
It was a complete diversion. Like, oh, we got to go look at this. Like, no, you're forgetting about the fact that you've acknowledged you had a black operations team looking at Al Qaeda who were ignored and told not to go after them.
Right.
Oh no, we got to find a picture. This is what they do, and this drives me nuts. It's always about we're going to ignore the elephant in the room and get you to focus on one little thing. Well, was Hunter next to Joe? Were they really sitting in the same room? Who cares? Who cares if they were sitting together?
It's a playbook, like you said. So the information has been known. We have a history of knowing things and having details to things, or people in certain agencies who have access to information. This is all known. We're not stupid, but they're playing us like we're stupid. We're not stupid. And they're not, and they're dangling something over here for their followers who watch the mainstream media, who won't dare go anything against the narrative that they're told. They've been conditioned to be like sheep and just accept something. And, you know, I don't like speaking about people like that, but I'm just saying that mentality, that behavior, and it's like, that's clearly what's happening when you are against your neighbor for asking, or colleague or coworker or friend or relative, about the basics that we have every right to know and need to demand, because we are losing our country.
And so, Chris, back to you on that. So,
again, it's the idea is to push a narrative and hope your base follows it. They'll scream about it on social media and shame everybody else for thinking otherwise. That's the way politics works nowadays, especially from the left to the right. The right, we're too busy working. We need people technically who will fight fire with fire. You had David Horowitz on one of the early The Hard Truths, and he was always an advocate of saying Republicans, conservatives need people who scream and yell like the left does. Somebody who will be shifty like Adam Schiff. Somebody who can fight Nancy Pelosi at the bar like everybody else. But we don't in general. We have a few now, but we didn't for a long time. Will the Jim Jordans of the world and Matt Gaetz of the world keep all this kind of thing up? We kind of enjoy watching Marjorie Taylor Greene do what she does. But the fact is, we need somebody with we need a larger team of people who can do those things as well. We can't just allow 4 or 5, or we just can't have 4, 5, or 6 people speak up and the rest going, well, I don't know. I don't want to be called a racist or anything.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, I think there's we had under Reagan a guy who was just sharp as a razor during his wit. You know, before he had the Alzheimer's, he was always able to come back with some laser focused commentary. And we need to have a combination of Reagan and Marjorie Taylor Greene, someone who can do both, someone who could be as witty as Reagan and as cutting as Greene, but be able to mix it up and do both. And that's what we don't have right now. I mean, Trump is good, but Trump is just kind of like all cannonball all the time. It's like that, you know, he never saw a target that he wasn't ready to take down. That's fine. I mean, I'm not criticizing him for the fact that he is who he is. Trump is Trump, as we all know. But we need someone, you know, and I like DeSantis, but DeSantis doesn't have that edge that Reagan had or that Trump has just to knock things down. He's getting better, I think, but he's not there yet.
There may be somebody, Tony. There may be somebody. I don't know what chance he has to win this sort of thing, but as a gentleman who has some money, has good personality, can cut the left's arguments not only easily and quickly, but humorously at times. Plus, he can appeal to younger people.
Is it
His name
Vivek?
is Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to put his name out there, and he is running a third right now. He's kind of rifling.
I'm glad you brought him up. No, I'm glad you brought him up. That's good.
He's suing the World Economic Forum. I just watched a recent interview with him because they keep so for anybody who looks Vivek Ramaswamy up and you are confused about his association with the World Economic Forum, he has done a recent interview sharing why it's so confusing, because they keep associating him even though he has turned it down, just like they did with Tulsi Gabbard, right? But you know, unfortunately the mistake was, she was kind and like had her team like right on Twitter, thanks for that or whatever. But anyway, she didn't apply. She was never part of any program, whatever. Well, they do this association and he's saying, you can damage me. And it is true, because people bring that up against Tulsi all the time and she has no association with them. He's suing them because they keep trying to associate with him, even though he's told them
Good for him.
otherwise.
Good for him.
Good for him. Mhm.
And it's long
That's
overdue
awesome.
that people push back, because otherwise, they accept that.
And
that's-
RFK Jr.'s fighting back against the Dems and the Democratic Party, and what he's seen, he is just blowing the lid off of them, and you can see how they're treating him, just like the Sound of Freedom movie or anything that's inconvenient.
He's blowing the lid off their penchant for censorship. He's still a pretty far on the left, like the rest of the Kennedys or most
Right,
of the
but
rest
he's
of them. So we have
testing
to
them.
keep that in
He's
mind.
in their party, and he is testing them, and their establishment is not liking it. They're trying to ignore it.
And
They-
at least he keeps his pants on. Just
Right.
saying.
And they can't do what they did to what's her name? I forget the life guru. She's running for president again.
Marianne Williams.
Marianne Williamson.
Yes, I know
She's
Mary.
trying to be
I met
tough
her.
girl,
And
man.
I like her. I mean, it's just
Oh, really?
She couldn't handle the
I-
hardball politics.
yeah,
though.
look, I met her at one of her talks. There's a picture of she and I out there somewhere with our clothes on, by the way, just saying. And it's no, it's a cool picture. We're together. It was my early days of sobriety. You guys know I've just passed 31 years of sobriety. It was like in my the second or third year of sobriety. Anyway, she actually has an approach that I actually listen to. I don't get any money from this, but she wrote a book called A Return to Love. It actually kind of helps people reshape their interpretation of who they are and their spirituality. I think it's great. I think she's helped a lot of people, but yeah, I think the Democrats are going to go after her as vigorously as anyone else, because they don't, they don't care how nice
Well, they don't
she is.
stay true to what they claim, and so that's what I'm saying. And it's quite obvious.
What we should do, though, is head over to Tony's Takes, which is
Hello.
powered by Sig Sauer. Never
is fine.
settle.
Never settle.
I don't settle. I do believe people are settling when they think Megan Rapinoe was one of the great female athletes of all time. Okay, she's a great soccer player, but she's no Mia Hamm. I'll give you that.
Mia Hamm's awesome.
She retires. The chronically annoying Megan Rapinoe retired, but with a parting comment supporting biological men playing women's sports is welcome to her. Now, a real champion and non-self-promoter, because that's what Rapinoe was, a big-time self-promoter, a non-self-promoter like Martina Navratilova, says this is a threat to women's sports. I know your take on the surface, Tony, but what's your take on how far this has gone, where the answer is obvious to the likes of even Chumley and Ed Norton?
Well, I like it that Maria Martilova's response was "yikes" on Twitter.
Yeah.
It's like
Yikes is great.
and man, that really pissed off all the. I mean, it's like, geez.
Oh wow!
And it's great. There's a big controversy as we're doing the show about that, and so this is the thing. I love women. You all know that, and I think. I do. I mean, come on. I'm not saying that it's something you all don't know. No offense, Chris.
Nobody likes me anyway.
No offense. Anyway, my point being is that if you really care about someone, it's like you promote them and you protect them. And I don't believe I'm a chauvinist here. I'm just saying, I do believe in equality. I do believe that we need to treat each other with respect and promote women doing things in women's sports. Women have strengths and weaknesses. We all know this. I'm not saying something that's not known. And I'm sorry, men can't menstruate, men can't breastfeed. And the more that they put out that nonsense and this fiction, the more damage it does to women. And the left talks about wanting to protect minorities and groups who have been threatened. It's like they're the biggest threat to women at this point in time by this nonsense. And it's just shameful. You all know, Chris, we all have our rock and roll friends, Cherie Currie and Jen Mathias from the Bell Stars, Susan Olsen. These are all people who are not traditionally conservatives, who are fed up with the nonsense from the left regarding this, because it's not about who you sleep with. It's about who you can manipulate into basically destroying the cultural norms we've come to accept. And one of those points of acceptance is protecting women. Rapone, I mean, I don't know who got to her, but it's like, I don't understand how. And by the way, she could not compete against a male. She could not, no matter what she thinks.
15-year-old boys beat them. The men's semi-pro teams beat the women's team. And the 15-year-old boys team, and I guess it was Texas, beat them.
There you go.
The problem I have with her is not it's not speaking out. I'm all for people speaking out. It's the fact that it's her entitled mentality, And the fact that she just feels like she has to act like an authority on almost everything just because she said something horrible about America a long time ago. People thought she was annoying and let her go, but the media just keeps giving her this attention. What is it? The pink hair? I don't know. She's pretty.
You know
good.
it's bad. You know it's bad when a man from the Netherlands wins the Miss Universe pageant. Holy cow! Have you seen a picture of the guy?
Yeah.
I don't care
I
how
have.
much surgery you do. He's got some jacked up teeth. He is not attractive at all. And did you see the runner-up? She's absolutely breathlessly gorgeous.
But
Just
that's the point,
beautiful.
Elizabeth. That's the
Very
point.
female.
That's the point. They did it. That's purposely done. They picked someone who looks like a man and then wanted to degrade the woman.
Right.
Make it clear the woman is subordinated. They did that purposely.
Purpose.
Yes.
If you haven't seen this woman yet, or whatever, I don't know what the pronouns are. I guess it.
It's
Okay.
If
you haven't seen it yet, think of me with a mop on my head. Okay,
Right.
that's what you have.
Right.
I could win the Miss Norway pageant looking like this.
So,
But if you look at I'm sorry, Tony.
No, go ahead, Pete. Go ahead.
If you look at the whole for this issue about a man taking the place, an award, a competition, blah blah, of a woman, right? And you look at how they have already, this is all systematic and it's super obvious. It's getting more obvious to those who've been asleep that not only are they taking down the alpha male, they're taking down the alpha male. They're making boys, men, everyone just feel whatever, all these confusions, you're a terrorist, you're this, that, and the other, all these bad things, you're toxic masculinity, these are all bad things. This is what they're taught. And then at the same time, now they're slowly pushing up the weaker of the men, maybe the more effeminate or the whatever. And now they're confusing the heck out of them, starting young, talking about transitioning, starting talking about sex, all these things, you're conditioning them. And then now they're going in and they're putting they're more frail, they're more whatever type, and they're putting up against us. So we're taking down the alpha male and we're propping up these I don't know, soy boys, whatever you want to call
Soy
them.
boys. That's a
and
good
they're
term.
and there's a trans and they're literally taking our position. And it's like, it's worse than disgusting and
that's
humiliating.
why they want to get into elementary
insulting.
school so bad. They want to get into kindergarten and start.
They're confusing our kids, and the chemicals are causing harm.
Right. So, Tanya, I have a question for you. In a contest like that, when it comes to the dangling bits judgment contest, is it male or women who have to judge that in those female?
I don't know the dangling. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm
not going to pretend to know. But it's super insulting that they even. First of all, I don't care about pageants, but this is supposed to be more than looks. It's supposed to be the accomplishments of a woman plus the looks.
Of course,
it's pretty annoying in general. But the fact that you're taking the accomplishment award and all these things that they have to compete against and they show their talent for, or whatever the heck it is. And they gave it to a man who's pretending, and everybody they're lying. You're lying. You're agreeing to a lie because you don't want to be sued. You don't want to be canceled, and you don't want to be hated, and you don't want to be confronted by people outside. And it's like, hey, that's fine if you want to live like that. I am not anti you living the way you want to live, but we're just talking facts here. And this is a competition. You're not a woman. You shouldn't be competing.
Hear, hear.
Agreed. This leads me to a lightning round, Tony's take right here. So let's go for it. Why is Hollywood intent on destroying major franchises and iconic characters in the name of social justice when such films consistently flop? I'm going to take a subset of that because Tanya mentioned this. They're destroying a lot of these alpha male type characters. Look what happened to
Indy Jones.
Indy Jones. There you go. And Luke Skywalker, by the way, they took a lot of manliness away from him as well.
So they have made the policy that all men who actually had testosterone must be examined from the perspective of broken and weak. Luke Skywalker, the whole the Rise of Skywalker, it was just meant to reduce that. And remember, it turns out that the heroine, the Mary Sue, was actually a Palpatine. She was actually related to the Emperor, which really basically shows that good did not win. that was metaphorically
Wow.
there for a reason. And then same with Indy Jones. I have not seen the Dial of Destiny. And I am not. I am not going to see it because of, and my friend Doomcock, we've talked about, we had Doomcock on here. He was right.
Mhm.
It was, Fleabag. I don't need to have a woman who's a feminist, Mary Sue, who basically represents, if you watch it from just the reviews, she represents colonial England, the worst of what England was regarding arrogance and keeping people down. So I just don't need to see it. And Chris, I don't get it. I don't think people want to see it. I think Disney and the MCU, as Gary says on Neurotic, it's all meant to back up what Tanya said about trying to destroy culture and convince people to accept a lie. So
Exactly.
anybody else want to comment before we go? We got about.
I'd rather give my money to Sound of Freedom, buy somebody another ticket. I've already seen it, but I'd see it. I'm just saying, I don't want to give my money to Disney.
Oh, you did see it?
Yeah. And so, they sold the movie. Good. It finally got out there 5 years later, despite all of the efforts to keep it from being out there. Despite all the hit pieces, it's still doing really well. And I encourage anybody that has any questions to listen to any interviews, long form, not somebody commenting on the filmmaker or the people in it, but listen to them themselves in the interview and get the heart of the director. And it's not just about the man, it's about the people who were involved. And by the way, these young actors, they deserve an award. They were amazing. So just the film alone was really
I haven't seen it, but every reviewer that I listened to feels what says exactly what Tanya said. So, we get nothing. We're not endorsing the movie. I'm just saying, I think from everything it appears, it's great content based on a true story. Tim Ballard, this is all good stuff. So I, without seeing it, would recommend seeing it because I'm going to see it eventually. So.
I can't wait to see it. Yeah.
Good. So anyway, well, that's it for today. We got to go. We're over time, but thank you for joining us again here on The Hard Truth. Chris, Tanya, Elizabeth, we're all here, and we hope you enjoyed our program, and we'll see you again next week.
I woke up in a derelict delirium to a stranger's kiss and a broken opinion.